There's a quiet kind of strength that most people miss. It's not the strength of fighting harder. It's not the strength of holding tighter. It's the strength of letting go, without feeling like you've lost. Buddhism teaches acceptance not as surrender, but as supreme clarity. When you accept something, you stop wasting energy trying to bend what refuses to change. You stop resisting reality. You start flowing with it, instead of drowning under it. Acceptance isn't weakness. It's knowing exactly where your real power lives, not in control, but in calm. Acceptance doesn't mean you agree with what happened. It doesn't mean you love the pain, or celebrate the loss, or pretend that injustice is fair. Acceptance simply means you stop arguing with reality. You stop insisting that things should be different. You stop exhausting yourself in battles that never belong to you. Buddhism calls this non-resistance, the art of seeing clearly, feeling fully, and still choosing peace over endless inner wars. You are not weak for letting go. You are wise enough to understand that clinging only extends the suffering. When you practice acceptance, you aren't giving up your voice. You're giving up the fight against what already is. There's a peace that rises when you stop saying, "This shouldn't have happened," and instead breathe into, "But it did, and now I choose my response." Buddhism teaches that true power is quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't shake. It simply remains, grounded, clear, unshakable. If you want more reminders like this, gentle, steady, real, subscribe and tap the bell. So every time the world feels heavy, you remember how light letting go can be. Sometimes letting go feels like losing. It feels like giving up when every part of you wants to keep trying, keep fixing, keep proving that something or someone can be saved. But Buddhism teaches impermanence. Everything changes. Everything fades. Everything eventually asks to be released. The longer you grip, the deeper you sink. The tighter you hold, the heavier you become. Acceptance isn't the enemy of effort. It's the boundary that protects you from pouring your life into wells that never fill. It's not weakness. It's wisdom with open eyes and an open heart. There's a quiet shift that happens when you truly accept. The grip in your chest loosens. The restless questions fall silent. The energy you once spent chasing closure or fixing the unfixable returns to you, like a river finding its source. Buddhism teaches, not everything broken needs mending. Not every story needs a perfect ending. Not every relationship needs a dramatic goodbye. Sometimes peace comes when you simply stop insisting on something different. You allow it to be what it is, and you allow yourself to be free within it. That's not weakness. That's liberation. Acceptance isn't passive. It doesn't mean you stop caring or stop trying. It means you choose where to plant your effort, where it has a chance to grow, not just where your fear tells you to stay. Buddhism teaches skillful effort, not frantic action, not desperate chasing, but mindful movement, aligned with reality, not resisting it. You accept where you are, not because you love the pain, but because you respect yourself too much to keep fighting battles already lost. Real strength isn't shown by how long you hold on. It's revealed in the grace with which you let go. Letting go doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you trust yourself enough to feel without being ruled by the feeling. You allow sadness to move through you without gripping it. You allow disappointment to visit without building a home for it inside your chest. In Buddhism, emotions are like clouds, passing, shifting, never permanent. When you accept them without attachment, you free yourself from drowning in them. You realize you are not your sadness. You are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are the sky they pass through, vast, quiet, untouched at your core. Sometimes acceptance feels like silence, not because there's nothing to say, but because words no longer change anything. You stop defending yourself against the storms. You stop shouting into winds that will never shift. Buddhism teaches that peace isn't found by controlling life. It's found by surrendering to its flow. When you accept, you create a quiet space inside you, where not everything needs to be solved, where not every wound demands closure. You don't lose your strength when you let go. You find it, deeper, steadier, waiting in the silence you once feared. Acceptance isn't the end of hope. It's the beginning of real hope. Hope rooted in what's real, not what's wished for. When you stop needing life to fit your expectations, you open yourself to possibilities you couldn't see before. Buddhism calls this the beginner's mind, approaching life without demands, without rigid narratives, with open hands instead of clenched fists. You still dream, you still care, but you stop demanding the universe owe you a certain outcome. And in that surrender, you find a deeper strength, the kind that no disappointment can shake. You realize, through acceptance, that much of your suffering wasn't from what happened, but from the way you kept arguing with it in your mind. The resistance, the replaying, the rewriting of what should have been. Buddhism teaches, suffering is optional when pain is inevitable. You can't always choose your circumstances, but you can choose your relationship with them. Acceptance doesn't erase the past. It erases the illusion that you needed a different one to be whole. And from that place of wholeness, you move forward, lighter, freer, more alive. There's a grace in acceptance that no struggle can match. It's the grace of breathing through uncertainty without demanding immediate answers. It's the grace of holding sadness without letting it harden you. It's the grace of moving forward, even when the map you held for so long has burned away. Buddhism teaches patience, not as waiting for life to fix itself, but as learning to stay open even when clarity hasn't arrived. You don't force the healing, you allow it. And in that allowing, life begins to unfold again, not perfectly, but truthfully. Acceptance teaches you something fierce and beautiful, that you can survive things you once thought would break you. You can sit inside grief without being swallowed by it. You can walk through endings without losing your beginning. You can feel the full weight of sadness and still rise lighter. Buddhism doesn't offer escape. It offers presence. It invites you to meet life exactly where it is, raw, real, imperfect, and still choose to remain open. When you stop running from what is, you stop running from yourself. And that, more than anything, is what sets you free. You begin to understand that acceptance is not a moment. It's a practice, a daily surrender to what you cannot change, a daily return to what still lives within you, untouched, undefeated. You accept that some answers won't come. Some people won't apologize. Some chapters won't close neatly. And still, you breathe. You no longer tie your peace to perfect endings. You no longer delay your healing waiting for someone else's permission. Buddhism calls this liberation, the freedom that rises when you stop waiting for life to grant it to you. You claim it, silently, steadily, fully. Acceptance doesn't numb you, it sharpens you. You feel everything more clearly, but without drowning, without gripping. You allow life to touch you without tearing you apart. Buddhism teaches mindful awareness, not turning away from life, but meeting it fully with soft eyes and an open heart. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start whispering, "Even this is part of my path." You begin to trust that not all storms come to destroy. Some come to clear the way. Acceptance isn't giving up on yourself. It's finally showing up for yourself, in all seasons, without conditions. Letting go doesn't erase your story. It honors it. It says, "I lived through this. I learned from this, and I choose to move forward without dragging the weight of it." Buddhism reminds you, you are not the sum of your scars. You are not the unfinished conversations, the unmet expectations, the dreams that didn't bloom. You are the space that holds all of it and still chooses peace. Acceptance doesn't diminish what you've endured. It transforms it from something that haunts you into something that strengthens you. You carry it differently now, not as chains, but as wisdom woven into your skin. Acceptance teaches you to stop demanding a different past and instead craft a different future. You no longer seek to rewrite what happened. You seek to respond differently to what happens next. Buddhism calls this the middle path, a life lived not in extremes of denial or despair, but in steady presence. You realize healing isn't pretending you were never hurt. It's choosing not to live forever at the site of your wounds. You build new spaces within you, spaces filled not with bitterness, but with breath. And every day you choose acceptance. You choose yourself again, stronger, clearer, freer. You start to see that letting go isn't just an action. It's a way of being, a constant softening of the grip, a constant releasing of the weight, a constant returning to the breath, where life always begins again. Buddhism teaches non-attachment, not coldness, not indifference, but a wise love that knows nothing can be held forever. You hold everything, your dreams, your people, your hopes, with open hands. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough to let them grow or go as they need to. And in doing so, you free yourself too. Acceptance isn't the absence of feeling. It's feeling everything, and still choosing to stay soft. You don't close your heart. You don't build walls. You don't pretend you're untouched. You feel the sting of disappointment, the ache of endings, the bittersweet pull of memories, and you let them pass without building a life around them. Buddhism reminds you, pain is real, but suffering is optional. Suffering comes from clinging, from wishing it were different. But when you release that grip, you realize you're strong enough to hold joy and sorrow in the same breath, and still move forward, with grace. You realize that acceptance isn't a finish line, it's a daily choice. Some days it feels effortless, like breathing. Other days it feels impossible, like lifting the weight of your own heart. But every time you choose to stop fighting what is, every time you soften into reality instead of resisting it, you grow stronger in ways the world may never see. Buddhism teaches, real transformation happens quietly. In the tiny moments where you choose peace over pride, presence over resistance. You won't always get it perfect. You won't always feel ready. But every time you choose acceptance, you choose freedom. Part 20. Acceptance doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It means you stop demanding life bend to your dreams. You still wish. You still hope. But you release the grip that says it must happen exactly your way. You walk softer. You love cleaner. You breathe easier. Because you trust that life, even in its messiness, is still worth living. Fully, openly, bravely. Buddhism doesn't ask you to escape life. It invites you to embrace it, with all its beauty and all its brokenness. You are not weak for letting go. You are strong enough to stay open. Now tell me, what is one thing you know you need to accept, but still struggle to release? Write it in the comments. Sometimes naming it is the first act of letting go.